All right, welcome back. And lots of interesting conversations, that we're going to be having this morning. If you've missed all the hullabaloo that has been going on in Parliament, the rejection of the budget, the overturning of the rejection of the budget, and all that.
The rejection of the rejection.
Yeah, I know, right? All of those things have been happening. Well, sometimes a little bit confusing. We have our colleague here, Duke Mensa Opoku, with us, a parliamentary correspondent, and we just talk a little bit, and then we'll take you to Parliament and show you what's happened.
Mr. Opoku, welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm well.
I'm
well. Good to be here. It's great to be around.
It looks like the whole yellow thing is working.
No, I don't know who didn't get the memo. Sure it's a yellow day, We're starting the Christmas, on a golden note, and rightly so. But Duke, you have been following all these things. You've been going to Parliament. Are you not feeling dizzy with everything that is happening?
Well, it's uncharted waters. Very fluid situation. Nobody anticipated that a critical role for Parliament, like exercising its power of best function, that is approving money to be used by all other state agencies, ministries, departments, and agencies, would, for want of a better word, become acrimonious as it has become. But the signs have been on the wall. This is a Parliament like none other. Even from its inception, its birth, we saw the chaos that characterized that. But over the period, many would have thought that over the past 9 months, or 12 months now, we're in the 12th month now, the third meeting of some understanding would have been forged, a framework for agreeing on issues would have been forged by now.
Considering this is not even the first budget, to be approved, and that is Parliament.
This is not the first. This is not the first. The second is actually the second. The second budget, but there have been issues building up until now. So let's look at it from two angles. First, there is the institution of Parliament and its makeup of members of Parliament from both sides of the House. That is, they are practicing they are working out their representation functions as representatives of the people. So NPP, NDC, the parliamentary parties for both groups. That's one side. Then there is the political parties that sponsored these members of Parliament to go to come in there. Left to the MPs working as their representatives alone, some form of consensus could have been built, because they are best of friends when it comes to some of these things. But if you look at the second part of it, which is the political parties angle and the political parties wanting to win political advantage because of what is going on, that's what brings about the chaos and the acrimony.
All right,
that's what really.
We'll have you break this down further for us, but let's just go into Parliament now. Let's take a look at what happened on the floor yesterday.
That you, the Honourable Speaker, properly propose for determination the question on the motion moved by the Minister of Finance on behalf of His Excellency the President on Wednesday, November 17, 2021, in respect of the budget statement and economic policy of government for the year ending 31st December 2022. Mr. Speaker, it is clear, as I've already said, that the number that was invoked, the article that was invoked, was insufficient to cover the determination of the question that was proposed for the support or rejection of the budget. And so, Mr. Speaker, I invite you to uphold the motion and indeed, by inference, set aside the impropriety, because, as I've argued, what happened that day is a nullity because it does not meet the test established under Article 104(1). So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
So before I take any decision, I want to confirm that I have a majority of members of Parliament in the chamber. Honourable members, our clerks at tables are saying it's not all ministers who are non-MPs they know. So, in order to avoid a situation where a non-member of Parliament may be counted, may I please request the non-MP ministers to move to the gallery. But not to the gallery, so that we are not confused with the exception of the finance minister where he's sitting, you can't miss him. Other members, for the avoidance of doubt, let me read out the constitutional requirements so that there is no confusion as to who can vote and what numbers are required to take a decision. Article 104(1). Except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting. The vote of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. What it means is that before you take a decision, there must be at least a majority of all members present. With me, we have 138 members. That's a majority. It doesn't mean that all the 138 must vote yes or no. A majority of this 138, their decision will carry the day. So, I'll go ahead and put the question on the motion proposed before us. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Order. The consequence, though, of the unfortunate error is that the putting of the question of the budget statement and the question on the budget statement and the economic policy was done in violation of Article 104(1) of the 1992 Constitution, and therefore void and inconsequential, as the record shows 137 members were in the chamber. Subsequently, the vote and declaration that the budget statement was rejected are also hereby declared to be of no effect. Now that we have the numbers, sufficient numbers to take a decision in the chamber, I'll put the question again. But before that, I'll offer the opportunity to the finance minister, if he so wishes, to make his concluding remarks. If he so wishes to make his concluding remarks, as is the practice.
The big issue in the House is the elephant in the room, which is the e-levy. Mr. Speaker, the e-levy enables us to tackle the three issues of debt sustainability, of infrastructure, and most importantly, of our employment issues. We have 11 million people, youth, and we have in this budget introduced the largest ever youth program of 10 billion Ghana cedis to ensure that the entrepreneurial nation that we seek will be achieved, and the issue of indecency of jobs and dignity of our youth working will be a thing of the past, as we speak a common language to move on. But Mr. Speaker, the issue of living standards is a problem that concerns us more than any other person. And we have, therefore, considered the issue of the 1.75% e-levy, in which, Mr. Speaker, we are in discussions with the telcos to scale back to moderate their impact, so that in the end, the impact on the citizenry would be manageable.
Members, the motion that was moved by the Honourable Minister and have been debated is now ready for a decision to be taken. We have already determined that the appropriate numbers are in the chamber, and therefore the House stands ready to take a decision. Now I'll put the question. I'll put the question. All in favor of the House adopting the resolution moved by the Honorable Minister for Finance, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion moved. The House has adopted the financial. The House has accordingly approved the budget statement for the ensuing year ending 31st December 2022.
So this is it. Now,
Duke,
now.
What is this?
No, I think that, Duke, let's go to the classroom. Let's start from class 1.
Yeah.
So, how many members were in the House?
138 members of Parliament.
Okay.
And you will be able to find that based on the Register of Parliament.
Okay.
Which, the votes and proceedings today would capture it.
Okay.
So there were 138 members of Parliament in Parliament yesterday.
Okay. Now, did they form a quorum?
Yes. To form that, so there are two types of quorums. You need one quorum to transact business, to say Parliament is properly constituted to work.
Okay.
Then you need another quorum to take decision, to take a decision or take a critical decision.
Okay.
The quorum needed to start business is 1/3 of all members of the House.
Okay.
That translates to about 91 or 92. What you need, however, to take a decision is 2/3.
Okay.
That is 137.5. 0.5.
So that's half.
That's half.
Yes.
Half. Okay.
Half. Yes.
Half.
Yeah.
So that is what you
No
need.
less than half.
No less than half. That's what you need.
And then
at
we
every
had
point in time.
138.
There were
Meaning
138.
a little over half.
Half.
Yeah.
Okay, it's because we had 0.5.
Yes.
So now they could take a decision.
They could take a decision.
Now, who could vote? Who couldn't vote?
Every member of Parliament who was present in the chamber could vote. Or could have a say. If it's by voice vote, one is at the speaker's discretion to determine who has the who has the loudest voice, or ayes or noes. But if it's by head count, which happened when the majority moved a motion for what happened on Friday to be reversed, that one is by head count. In head counts, the clerks at table or the members of Parliament, the clerks, members of the parliamentary service, have to go around and count each person.
Okay.
Each person. So what happened in the first instance when the budget was the rejection was being rejected, if I may put it that way, a matter which the minority has indicated strong that they will challenge, was a motion was tabled by the majority leader and seconded by the deputy majority leader, to the effect that they had taken notice of what was in the votes and proceedings of Parliament for Friday, or the record of what happened on Friday, which indicated that with 274 members in Parliament, of course, the majority decided to walk out. A decision had been taken that the question put on the budget to be approved had been rejected, and because of that, they are giving the House notice that they do not agree with the processes that led to that, and because of that, they want it rejected. So they went through that procedure.
And had a head count.
Okay. And the issue, the gray area, is when the deputy, the deputy speaker, the first deputy speaker, who's also a member of Parliament, indicated that he's also a member, and because of that, he should be added to the question to have it, the budget, the decision that happened earlier on, over 10. So that was the first part. So after that had been done, then the motion, another motion was proposed that the House should accept the finance minister's document, upon which debate had occurred for the past 2 weeks. And that had to be by voice vote. Which is what occurred, and after which the speaker made this pronouncement in his ruling, indicating that the right honorable speaker, who in this instance is out of the jurisdiction, had erred. Those are his words. That they had erred. And based on his understanding of the laws, he thought that if the right numbers have been brought to the speaker's attention, he would have taken another decision. So that is what explains what has transpired so far. But in putting it in context, putting it in context, it only deepens the disagreement and the lack of consensus that has been brewing in this budget meeting. It's been long. I mean, it's been simmering for some time now. If you look at the decisions on the vetting ministers, there were some appointees who had some red flags raised about their approval, and at the end of the day, there was some conversation that took place, and we, as people observing keenly in Parliament, we saw certain things that happened. Some of them had to go around MPs, talk one by one, trying to convince them and talk to them, those on the other side, as to why they need to get them to vote for them. There were certain issues that had been raised about each and every one of them. So they had to reach out, speak to them, and get them. And at the end of the day, they were able to pass through that. There's also the issue of AKE.
Yes,
AKE Energy, which is also part of the 5 demands that the minority tabled and indicated that the e-levy, reversal of the benchmark values, AKE, and then there's also the tidal wave victims and the construction of the Keta and Blekusu. But on AKE, we also saw something nice in terms of dialogue on it, because there was a clear issue about the valuation of the country's oil fields that was being handed over to a Norwegian company. So the agreement was with the minority is indicating that they find a problem or they find something wrong with the valuation of the oil fields that is being given out to these companies or being given to AKE. And because of that, they are giving the finance minister a mandate, the mandate to go and negotiate on behalf of Parliament and bring it back. So that about that, because the majority's position or government's position, which was articulated by them, was to have the mandate agreement and to have to create a special purpose vehicle for GMPC to be able to carry through with all the agreements, but they did not agree, and this is the kind of concession that both sides reached. So that happened in the second meeting. But with the budget meeting, a lot of concerns have come up. First, the minority indicated that they were not going to approve it up until some expenditure at the presidency was explained or reduced. The issue about the use of private jets and the questions surrounding whether the presidential jet is in good condition, is in pristine condition, and can be used. That was one of the issues they raised. And then after the reading of the budget, the e-levy was also raised. The rate of the levy and whether it amounts to double taxation or not, that was also raised. And in the aftermath of the tidal waves, those issues were raised. I think that if prior engagement had taken place to resolve all of these concerns before Friday's, the culmination of the debate on Friday, we wouldn't have degenerated into this. Of course, there may be other reasons may account for why that may not have taken place. But if what has happened previously is anything to go by, the consultations that, and it is the question that the minority has kept raising over the period, which the majority have insisted that they have reached out to them, but they've not been able to agree on the issues. Partly because if you look at the issue of the e-levy, the finance minister has made his projections, and he indicated on the floor of Parliament yesterday that instead of borrowing from going to the IMF because of clear issues with the economy, or instead of, it stated it in previous times that the country will not go back to the IMF, but the revenue hole or the revenue gap has to be plugged, because in this budget, the government is seeking to raise 100 million Ghana cedis, billion Ghana cedis. That's the revenue.
100
billion Ghana cedis. Expenditure side 137 billion Ghana cedis. So you have a deficit of 37 billion. Which has to be government some way somehow has to find a way of doing that. And the e-levy gives government alone, but at this rate, gives the minister was 6.9 billion Ghana cedis. So it's about the balancing act. He's looking at it from how government is going to run out and roll out its projects, its plans and projects. And the minority is also looking at it from maybe because of, and they've indicated about the tagline during the conclusion of the debate from the minority side was Kumayeshi, and that it would the if the e-levy, which goes to the heart of Ghana's informal economy. Everybody's on more.
So where is all this coming from? Is it that the constitution is not too clear? You know, we don't really know exactly what is happening, because this is the first time we are experiencing a parliament like this. I'm asking this question because if things were that direct, if we understood what was happening, why would the majority subsequently, you know, hold a press conference to further explain what happened? You are the press conference.
Yes. So is basic disagreement over how the constitution is interpreted, and it's a question that many have advocated that it should be settled at the Supreme Court, because it's one of the issues that they have to deal with in terms of interpreting the constitution, because at the majority's press briefing they cited the constitution and cited precedent of a ruling by Speaker Doajaho.
Yes.
Which the president also passes for some form of legal. It's one of the sources of law, precedent.
Of course, I mean that's the parliamentary practice.
Yes. And convention that you need, based on what has happened previously, and he cited the issue of the ruling of Edward Doajaho in the state parliament when he was not around, and Ebo Batino-Dro, who was the second deputy speaker, sat in and took a decision. And because of that, they are fortifying what they had done by what had happened previously in the state parliament. But the minority caucus also had their briefing said, based on a strict interpretation of the constitution, as they understand, or as the minority leader understands, the lawyer of great standing by himself. This, what has occurred is an unconstitutionality. It doesn't.
Well, why don't we just go to the Supreme Court?
That should be.
Or are they reluctant to go to the Supreme Court?
Well, I mean, that is for every Ghanaian. Any Ghanaian who is interested can take the matter up. And I am reliably informed that there's a suit in that regard in the works.
Oh, okay.
Yes. From somebody very house person.
Oh, really?
Oh, an house person.
Oh, okay.
Somebody very
Interesting.
close to
It's
them.
a very
Yes.
no. So I mean, for me, the back and forth and the acrimony, especially for me, is completely unwarranted, in the sense that where we are as a country, we don't want more of this. We need less of this. We need to be able to start forging forward. Look, if the budget doesn't get approved, what are the challenges that lie ahead?
Well, that's a situation I dread, because two things. What has been approved, with all of its question marks, because obviously the other side does not agree with it, is the statements budget is signaling the intent, policies and programs of the administration. The second part are the sectoral allocations going into various ministries, departments and agencies, what will be spent by government over the period. Now, what was passed in March was with all that culminates into what's known as the appropriations bill.
Okay.
Appropriations bill is the law that gives government the power to spend.
Okay.
So what happened in March, because the 2021 budget was read and approved in March, runs out on the 31st of December this year. So after 31st December of this year, strictly speaking, government has no power to spend.
Okay. Wow.
Government has no power to spend by 31st December, because that's when the 2021
so they
budget
need to get it approved.
need to get it approved.
But
all means possible.
Is it late? Is it late to go back for the necessary consultations to be done? Because it looks like that is also another issue that a minority is raising. That no consultations have been done, and the minister had about 10 days to do this. It wasn't done until the day of the hearing and all these. Do you see this as some minority trying to punish, for want of a better word, the majority for everything that is going on?
Obviously, they feel aggrieved. They feel peeved, and it was very evident at the briefing yesterday that their views were not incorporated, or their position that they were putting across were not, incorporated into their budget, or were not captured. Yeah. And because of that, based on the strength of their numbers, when it comes to the approval of the allocations for the ministries, departments, and agencies, they would ask for a vote. So that should signal a further breakdown of consensus. Because let's look at this, the problems of this country, essentially in the social sector, health and education. So for instance, almost every, observing Parliament for the past 4 years to 5 years, a huge chunk of the country's allocations goes into education, health, and infrastructure, i.e. roads, mostly, before works and housing and social housing and other things comes in. For instance, these allocations come with the salaries of health, for instance, health workers, nurses, doctors, education comes with frontline staff. Yeah. Imagine this continues, and for 2 or 3 days on only the health sector. It's not been able to agree.
It's a major problem.
Because if it's not approved, if you don't find a solution to this and move on, it means that at some point the whole country is going to grant a halt, because nothing will happen.
So I know that in America, for example, they have something called a government shutdown. Yeah. This is where we're heading if we're not careful.
If consensus is not reached,
this is where we're heading.
That's what happens.
We have Dr. Rashid Draman, who spoke with us a couple of days ago, and we want to engage him again. And after yesterday's, what happened, to find out from him what it is. He is the executive director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Good morning, Dr. Draman.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I am well.
Okay.
How about you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us here on Breakfast Daily. Now, kindly let us know, after yesterday's events, what is it that your thoughts, where do your thoughts lie?
Yesterday when I heard that the two sides were in a marathon meeting, I was very, very hopeful that, like I said to you in the morning, that we were going to see a situation where there was some give and take. That we were going to see a situation where perhaps maybe the NDC might not have gotten all the 5 things that it asked for in the form in which they were, but maybe got something, maybe 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 in a different form. Yeah. And that the Minister for Finance was also maybe willing to move a little bit his position to the middle, so that at least at the end of the day, both sides will save face, and then we'll move on back to the chamber and then get the business of the house going.
All right, Dr. Draman, we'll take a short break. We'll come back and engage you more and get your thoughts on the the larger conversations of what happened yesterday. So please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. All right, welcome back. Now, we are having this conversation on Breakfast Daily here about the budget 2022. Now, and all the fallout from that, we were speaking before the break with Dr. Rashid Draman, who is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, and he's given us a bit of a breakdown. Now, this segment is interactive. We do want to hear from you. The WhatsApp line is 0550585832. The hashtag is Breakfast Daily on all social media platforms. Now, Dr. Draman, before we went on the break, you were giving us your thoughts, your opening thoughts on this. Can you kindly continue and let's understand what it is that actually happened yesterday and where do we go from here?
Yes, so as I was saying, I suspect that either the minority side did not get
what they were looking for,
that they were asking for, or some of what they were asking for, or the minister did not also yield to some of those demands, or they got some and they were not satisfied with it, and then so we don't have all the details. But at the end of the day, I think that it just signaled one thing, that there was no agreement and that led to what we saw yesterday. The legal people are giving all kinds of interpretations, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to go into that in order to educate the public. But we said this on the big issues on Saturday, that legalities will not cut this for us. At this point in time, at this critical moment, I think we need our leaders to be pragmatic and to put their practical hats on, and try to ask the question, look, all these things that are happening, beyond each party scoring some political points, what is it doing to our country? What is it doing to the image of our country in the eyes of investors, but most importantly, I think in the eyes of us ordinary Ghanaians? That our leaders cannot agree to give us a budget that would solve all the problems that we are grappling with. That at the end of the day, if there is gridlock, it's going to be the ordinary citizen who will bear the brunt. Because can you imagine, you wake up, you go to a public hospital for those who depend on that kind of service, and then there's no service. Sanitation, there's no service. All the teachers lay down their tools because there's a shutdown of government and so on. It has very serious implications for the image of our country at a time when our economy is trying to recover and we are trying to say we want to attract investors and so on and so forth. So I say all these things just to say, look, there's no one party that can come out of this as a winner. And they have to remember that. No one party can come out of this as a winner. And yesterday, I heard from the minority side during their press conference. They say in the press conference, from now onwards, forget compromise. Every issue is going to be subjected to a vote. If that is going to happen, given the numbers that we have, given constitutional arrangement of some ministers being members of parliament, a number of things are going to happen. Maybe the majority side will say, well, at all times, when there are critical moments, we'll marshal everybody to come to the house. But it's going to be at a great cost, and it's also going to delay a lot of government business. Because can you imagine if we wake up today, a number of members are not well and they cannot come to the chamber, and some business has to be transacted. And then maybe for strategic reasons, this is delayed, as we saw on Friday, because everybody said the NPP did not have the numbers. And it was true, because there was one of their members, this is public knowledge, who was not in the chamber. So these kinds of moments could happen, and this could be resolved if we agree that there is some compromise, and we agree that we are going to work together. And working together doesn't mean that both sides cannot get what they want. Because you remember, I keep citing this, President Biden took his bill to the Congress, his signature bill, and he didn't get everything that he wanted. And those are democracies from which we look up to for inspiration in terms of some of the practices that they have had over the last 200 years and counting. So the point I'm making is that I'm just saying again, pleading with our leaders that at the end of the day, no group can come out of this as a winner. And we would have to be mindful of that as we go through these processes. They have to find a way of, letting each side save face. So that we can move on.
All right. So you made reference to the minority presser and what it is that they said in terms of their positioning for the future. I want to ask our viewers to take a look and give them a quick reminder of what happened yesterday. Let's take a look at the minority presser.
After the terrible mess and playing with emotions and playing with our rules and democracy when people cannot even swallow their ego, but just try to play with our democracy. We are here to address you after the what we all saw, kind of kangaroo parliament they are trying to create. This will be addressed by no other person but our great leader, the minority leader. And after that, we'll open it up for you to ask questions. Without wasting much time, I'll hand over to the minority leader to address us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Whip, colleagues in leadership, and very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, colleague MPs, today will pass in history as a dark day for Ghana's constitutional parliamentary democratic practice. And a dark day because those seeking to govern are seeking to approbate and reprobate at the same time. As a popular maxim of equity, which states that he who seeks equity must do equity, and he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Today, I intend to address three fundamental issues. One, to explain why the minority were not in the chamber, because as far as practicable, we on Friday rejected the 2022 budget, which is reflected in the votes and proceedings. And I'm particularly happy that even the majority leader in his submissions admitted that we were 137, but decided to lead his side to walk out, a walk out to avoid humiliating defeat that was deserving of him and his government. And that's why I say, let me refer you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, I'll deal with Article 104 comprehensively, supported by Standing Order 109 comprehensively. And just read 104.3 for my purposes. Except as 104.1, except as otherwise provided in this constitution, matters in parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of the members of parliament present. The word voting was not even added to this particular constitutional provision. But more importantly is Article 104.3. And this is where the Ghanaian people must know them for what they are and what they stand for, that they don't believe.
Right, so that was the minority presser there. You saw the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, address his side and explain their side of what is going on in Parliament. Now, Dr. Dramani, so this is where we are at a stalemate, more or less. So where does this leave us? Because the minority has also given a clear warning that moving on, majority should not expect any kind of cooperation from them. Now, we are at the receiving end. How do we navigate through this? How do we proceed?
Well, I think we get from here to maybe the destination that will be beneficial to all of us if we find a way to dialogue and to do business. I mean, I think the hopes are not lost. I believe it is possible to find a way. I mean, definitely that is what we need to do. Otherwise, it's not going to augur very well for us. And like I said earlier, I mean, we have to also remember everybody is watching. The global kind of space is watching us. And no investor would like to walk in into a situation of uncertainty. So this must also be kept in mind. We want to raise revenues and we want to attract investors. We want to serve our people. I think that would not be done in a situation of acrimony between the two sides that hold the powers to govern this country.
So who needs to make a move? Who needs to reach out to who?
Yeah, well, I think both of them need to make a move. Of course, maybe we will need somebody, some institutions, and so on that could help. And of course, we have been talking about this all along, and our center, as well as other partners, thinking about some of what could be done in terms of making sure that some moves are made and some dialogue happens on this one. But I think, in my very humble opinion, because of the character of this parliament, I think we need to institutionalize some continuous dialogue on the quiet, so that at the end of the day, I think everybody will see reason in terms of the dangers of taking a very entrenched position.
But Doctor, so if we go into the issues raised, the minority have come out with some concerns, i.e. the e-levy and other issues, Aker Energy and all. These are some of the issues they need addressed before the passage of the approval of the budget. Is this too much to ask for? And is it too difficult for the majority side, to also see reason and find a compromise to this?
Well, I don't think it is too much to ask for. I don't think so. And like I think on another platform this morning, one host of the program, on Joy, said that I think they did a very quick survey of Ghanaians, and most Ghanaians are against the budget. So, in other words, what it means is that most Ghanaians don't like what the policy statements contained in the budget are. So that would mean that, as a listening government, because that's what we have heard over and over, some serious thinking would have to go into taking into account the demands of the minority. I don't know whether some of those were addressed yesterday, but seeing the position of the minority from the presser, I believe maybe all their demands were thrown out of the door. And like you rightly said, the right question, is this too much to ask for? In my opinion, not too much to ask for. Maybe some of it can be accommodated, but not all. So the other side must try and see what is it that can be accommodated, because their voice, I believe, is the voice of the people. That's the voice of the minority currently on these matters.
So right. we actually have a Twitter poll going on City TV on Twitter, and we basically asked the question: are you content with how the 2022 budget approval has been handled by Parliament? And out of 235 votes, 85% are saying they are not, happy with the handling. So this pretty much goes, in the same direction as you're suggesting, that people generally just are not pleased with the way things are going. Dr. Draman?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So that's the point I'm making, and I think both sides will need to pay attention to this, because you see, we are getting sophisticated in terms of our voting decisions in this country.
Yeah.
Nothing should be taken for granted, I think, by both sides. So if there are views like this, at the end of the day, if you look at it, both parties have their base.
Yeah.
But it's a middle. Right now, I think in the last election, we are counting about 1 million people or thereabouts that are the deciders. And I think their views must be taken very, very seriously. I mean, if I were in the position of both parties, I think I would do a very quick poll. Maybe apart from what you are doing just on Twitter, so maybe some scientific poll very, very quickly to try and find out, how Ghanaians really feel, because that's going to be a barometer for whether both parties have a chance at 2024.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Draman, for speaking with us this morning. We appreciate your thoughts. We've been speaking with Dr. Rashid Draman, who is the Executive Director for the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. And our colleague, Duke Mensah Opoku, is still here with us. Duke, so you heard all that Dr. Draman had to say on this.
I'm going to put the question that I asked Dr. Dramani right back at you. Who needs to, because you are there with them, I'm sure you can determine the mood, is it that of anger? Is it that of ego? Is it that of, what exactly is happening? Who at this point needs to make the first move? To who?
I think because it's the administration's budget and they need to get it approved to be able to roll out their programs and projects for next year. They should make the move. Yeah, they should make the move.
And in this case, what would that look like? Are you calling the minority leader with the chief whip, with the minority whip, or how would that look like?
In this instance, what can be done is for the main issue, which has the point of the contention, the serious issue of contention, is the e-levy.
Yes.
For both parties to agree on the rate which would be bearable for Ghanaians.
Okay.
The rate which would be bearable for Ghanaians, or even some form of a workable framework for both of them. But of course, we know that the country needs to find ways of raising revenue instead of financing its expenditure or debt. And it's a long-term conversation that they because as far as all of us are concerned, our society politically has become a duopoly. It's either center left or center. So whoever is in office at the end of the day would stands to benefit from such a long-term framework that has been created. I think that should be the starting point or the premise for the conversation, and then bring in, if it's going to be done incrementally, say over the next 5 years, this is how much we intend to raise, and the rate is going to be increased at this point. Both parties should talk to each other and agree on such a framework.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
So that once that agreement is reached, when they come to that kind of compromise, the initial issues about anger and ego and the politicking would be put to rest. I think that's how they should proceed. And there's a certain indication of for the other issues. Blekusu, the finance minister, in his statement on the floor of the House, indicated that would be taken care of. Some form of allocation will be made to it. Ejapa says the Attorney General is reworking it. Then he reworks it and is brought back to Parliament. And the issues therein are not favorable. It will still be a matter of contention. So in reworking it, that's why the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee works. There should be consultation at that level also. But sure that whatever is being brought being brought to them to discuss or to have a conversation over or to approve is one that both can find consensus. And this happens in mature democracy. This happens. In Sweden just last week, a female prime minister was in office for just 1 day. Because she after being able to marshal a side to get a budget approved, consensus broke down at a certain point, and then she had to resign on a matter of principle.
So I find it interesting because I think also there's the issue of posturing. And when you see, for example, someone like Katie Hammond and the comments he made yesterday before the vote, I thought, look, you're not helping matters. You see, because it's a matter of saying, basically what he said was that, listen, we have the numbers, we will go in there, we're going to railroad the whole situation, and we will get what we want. I'm not sure that's the way we want to be going.
Yes, but it all captures the kind of mood which was in Parliament. I mean, let's not forget that there were meetings up from about 8 a.m. to about 3:30.
Yes.
Which did not yield any results.
Oh wow.
From 8 a.m. to 2. So it looks like what happened was a matter of last resort, really, because from 8 a.m. to about 3, and minority caucus had their meeting, majority caucus had their meeting, and the expanded leadership went into a meeting with the ministers of state to try and agree on certain things. But as at 3:30, consensus had broken, and then decided
that. You guys give the impression that they had a good meeting and that they were expecting the minority to show up.
Obviously, from what the minority said at their press briefing, they could not.
But you know, is it not possible, to suspend certain parts of the arguments? For instance, the e-levy. Can we not suspend that and go ahead with the entire budget? And then look at details later on, the issues that are being raised. Because yesterday I heard the Honorable Muntaka say that until every single issue being raised is resolved, they are rejecting the whole budget. Is it not too much, of a demand per where we stand now?
Well, it's all about the how. It's all about looking at it from a political point of view instead of the governance point of view. If they both agree that whatever issues they're in or they are in there can be resolved, it can be resolved, and there's provision within. And they always say that Parliament is a master of its own rules. So if both sides decide that
they want to resolve
in the interest of Ghanaians, we should suspend this part of it, they can always find room within the provisions of the standing orders and the constitution to ensure that is done.
It looks like now it's gone beyond finding an amicable solution to who is right, and because people are also watching. And when you look at when you look at the kind of headlines we had, when you look at the kind of comments, from when the budget was rejected last week, and it being the rejection being rejected yesterday, you look at it as who is winning, who is losing, and I think that is very problematic.
It's dangerous, actually. It's dangerous, but yeah, Duke, I mean, any final thoughts on this?
It's the politics of it. The politics of it should be reduced. Of course, it's obviously it's a contest of ideas that brought members of Parliament to the House. That's what essentially democracy is about. But in the contest of ideas, the responsibility on our leaders to deliver the dividends of democracy, which is good roads, education, hospital, what everybody expects, that once I'm paying my taxes, the social contract I have with government, I need this to be delivered to me. That should not be lost. That responsibility should not be lost on the members of Parliament as we go through this uncharted. I think with that higher ideal and with that higher expectation of them, if they should really hold on to that,
I like to find a way, because that's basically what it is. I mean, you say I should represent you, but I can also decide to hold a political position, but you're going to suffer at the end of the day if I'm going to do that, right? So what about compromise? And I think I want to go back to what Samen said yesterday. Somebody's going to have to give something, someone on both sides, and once that happens, give up some ground, we all agree, and we move on.
Because what we're trying to, we are failing to note is that this kind of, MPP is saying they are trying to break the 8-year gene or something, but what we are doing, just as Oseche Mensah kind of made reference to Doa Ajaho's presidency, his decision, in the State Parliament. Whatever we are doing today, we shouldn't forget that in a few years' time, the tables will turn.
It's coming back.
And it won't be on the other side. And how is it going to be like? So it is in our interest, it's in Ghana's interest that we find a solution to this and move the country forward.
Is compromise. And let compromise be the precedent that we set. That's
anyway.
Thank you very much, Duke. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Duke.
Fantastic thoughts.
Right.
Yeah. All right. And we're going to go for a short break. Don't go anywhere. Breakfast Daily will continue after that.